It's Friday. Fridays with Fidelman. Hey everybody, I'm Cheryl Fidelman, and every Friday I'm going to be putting out a topical video. And every first Friday is our live attunement webinar, 10 a.m. Pacific. Come join us. Our last one was really beautiful. There was so much deep connection and sharing, and really like authentic maskless communication, and lots of healing, and a lot of like new insights, well, that were new to some of us, in just an hour. So come and join us, and for those of you who are on it, come back, and the community is growing. So today our topic is codependence, sex, and attunement. Now, in the Trust Yourself Summit that I put out, the 21st video was codependence and sex, and I wanted to put out more information on that topic because, guess what? Everybody was psyched about that topic, which I guess I shouldn't have been surprised that I got so many emails about people sharing their sexual history with me and their sex lives and their relationship to sex. But you know what? We all have a relationship to sex, whether you're having a ton of sex or a little bit of sex or a medium amount of sex or no sex at all, you haven't had sex in 20 years, or you don't ever want to have sex again, or you are monogamous or polyamorous, or you're having sex with the same sex or the opposite sex. We all have a relationship to sex. For the purposes of this discussion and my work, for a lot of us, there's a level of dysfunction in our sex lives, and this doesn't go for everybody. There's a lot of people who have very healthy sex lives. But for my clients and my study, and for myself as a recovering codependent, I just want to really address and continue to address the dysfunction in sex and the conscious world and unconscious world that is at play when it comes to the whole world of sex, which is intercourse itself, foreplay, flirting, dating, attraction, arousal. There are so many different parts of the brain at play. There are so many different chemicals that are being released, and a lot of sex is regressive, meaning we are regressing to a younger age when the arousal is triggered. So I know I just said a lot, and I'm going to cover some of it, and we'll probably put out a Codependence, Sex, and Attunement Part 2 at some point, because there's just so much to cover. Now, I'm going to share with you where I think my relationship to sex went awry. And this is true for a lot of people who have been molested when they were children. Adolescents, teenagers, or somewhere in their adult life. Excuse me. So when I was 4 years old, I was molested by one of my brother's friends. And I didn't say no, and I enjoyed it. That's how I remember it. I also have a theory about memory, right? That it's really, memory reforms things and can mean so many different things. Is that actually how it happened, or is that just how I remember it happening? And am I manipulating the story to prove the current moment? Anyway, I have a lot of different theories, so sorry if I make left and right turns. But so that's how I remember it, that I liked it, and it was consensual. And I was 4 years old. And what that left me with, the other thing I want to say about that is that the incident happened, and then somehow, automatically, I knew, don't say anything about this. Nobody told me that. The kid that molested me, I don't think he told me that. But my system, my brain, knew this is protected information. This is information to hold secret. Don't tell anybody this. There's something about this that's not right. It's weird. It's shameful. And the whole world of all of that stuff was piled on me, and I repressed the information for probably 20 years. I don't think that story came out of my mouth for maybe 20 years, and once to one person, in 20 years. So what that instilled in me unconsciously was that a good sexual feeling comes with some level of shame. It comes with some level of, this isn't quite right, but because it feels good, because the mechanics of it feel good, I'm going to go with it anyway and sort of ignore any other reasoning or desire. So I would say that there was like a whole chunk of me that wasn't even present for a lot of the sex that I was having. The chunk of me that had some other desire or thought something else should be happening, or thought, I'm going to do this because I am going to go with what's cool in this moment, or what feels like should be happening, or this other person has such a strong need and desire, I'm going to go with it. And it feels good because I like sex and I've always liked sex. But there's always been this conflict. And I think that conflict was born when I was 4 years old. So, and for a lot of us who have been molested at some point in our life, it creates just immediate conflict with most sex. And, if I had it my way, people would heal their sexual trauma before they became, before they started their sex life. But that's a ginormous ask, which, I don't know if that's possible. But and for recovering codependents like myself, and when I say codependence, simply put, and I like simple dialed down answers, so there's more dimension to codependence than this, but simply put, codependence is a want to be wanted, a need to be needed, and or trying, you're doing something in order to prove yourself, usually prove your self-worth, or prove something about the relationship that you think needs to be proven. And most of my sex was wrapped in that. And most people who are codependents are not fully conscious when they're having sex, and they're not making fully conscious decisions, and they're not making conscious yeses, which inside of sex, it's hard in and of itself to make a conscious choice because the libido is so strong and the feelings of arousal are so strong that we will go with, and I'm talking about men and women, I'm talking about a man's masculine and feminine side and a woman's masculine and feminine side, that the libido can be so strong that we will let the libido drive us and then deal with the aftermath afterwards. We let the libido drive us other than our thoughts, our feelings, any sensations that may not actually feel good. We just go with the moment of the arousal. And when we're going with the moment of the arousal, first of all, there's so many parts of the brain that are triggered when it comes to arousal. And there are so many chemicals that are being released when it comes to arousal that it is hard in and of itself to make a conscious sexual decision, okay? So add on the fact that a lot of us have unhealed traumas. A lot of us are sort of unconsciously hoping and praying that this sexual experience is going to transform our relationship outside of the bedroom. Because oftentimes our relationship inside of the bedroom is distinct from our relationship outside of the bedroom. especially if there is a strong dysfunctional psychology that's running the relationship like a codependent narcissistic stronghold. Inside the bedroom, there could be, not for everybody, okay, but there could be this, this is our pure selves, when we kiss or when we touch, or I have so much anxiety, my nervous system is running amok outside of the bedroom, but once we're in the bedroom, this is where I'm relaxed, and this is where our masks are off, and this is where we're having this like pure, could be magical, could be spiritual connection, and this is what's making the tug of war outside of the bedroom all worth it. And so the more sex we have when the psychology of the relationship is not healthy, the more we are tied to that person, and the more we're possibly trying to prove something about the relationship outside of the bedroom. And also oftentimes, and this was the case for me in a lot of my sexual relationships, where the sex life was actually mixed with a mixture of beautiful moments, beautiful, pure, innocent moments, and also moments where I felt like I was being forced or convinced to do things that I didn't want to do, or I was just sort of taken, in a way that I didn't want to be taken. Or I would enforce the power because I wanted to seem like I finally had some power in a moment, right? Because I felt like I didn't have any power outside the bedroom. So there were power struggles. There were me doing things that I didn't necessarily want to do, but I was trying to prove something. And also was in so much confusion about sexual arousal. I'm aroused, so it must mean I'm enjoying this moment, and it must mean that I want what's happening to be happening. And I wasn't sure if I wanted it to be happening, or if I didn't want it to be happening, and that's my 4-year-old self. Okay, and I think I might have said it. That's why I think a lot of sex can be regressive, okay? Because we are still operating from that younger self that was, number one, either molested, or number two, we were teenagers when we started having this libido and we started having this attraction, and nobody taught us how to deal with that. It's almost like God was like, here, have genitals, good luck, And I think that it's potentially God's biggest trick or joke, sexual temptation. And I want to start in my studies, start doing work in the educational system. I don't know how long it's going to take. It could take years and years and years, but I want sexual education to be expanded and to help us attune to ourselves, learn to attune to ourselves when we're teenagers. Your libido is going to start to grow. Things are going to start happening to your bodies. This is how you're going to feel. This is what temptation feels like. This is what owning your own sexual space feels like. This is what you can get from sex. This is what you shouldn't try to get out of sex. Teach kids how to manage what sex is and what the feelings are and what desire is and what temptation is and how to communicate and all of this, communicate all of this stuff. And I also think that we should have a class in education about molestation because it's so rampant. It's heartbreaking how many people have been molested before they were even sexually developed. Kids that are going into junior high and high school, dealing with their sexuality, having already been dealing with the first part of their sexuality developing, having already been molested. So there's so much here. How much time do I have? I don't want to take up too much time with this. Where else do I want to go? I want to talk about the 5 love languages, which I think, I don't know when that started or when that theory was sort of put out there, but it caught on really well. The 5 love languages: words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, quality time. Those are these 5 love languages. Now, it's an interesting concept, but I want to take a deeper stab at it, which is a lot of what we attract to. Like for me, it's physical. It was always physical touch. That was my number 1 love language, physical touch. Now, it's my number 1 love language because of the way that I feel when I'm touched. I feel, if I'm touched the right way, or like if I'm with somebody and our hands fit together like puzzle pieces, or our bodies fit together like puzzle pieces, I feel like I'm safe and protected and I'm with a familiar being that I should be with. And these are the things that I'm making it mean. But that's not all necessarily true, because they may not be actually a safe person, but my body is telling me something that isn't actually true in reality. I've had so much sexual chemistry with people where I felt like, oh, we have chemistry. And when they touch me, my nervous system relaxes. Like I have all this anxiety outside of the bedroom, but this is the love language that relaxes my nervous system. And I think that's sort of one of the intentions of the love languages, like which one of these 5 things relaxes your nervous system. And for me, I would have so much anxiety outside the bedroom, and inside the bedroom there would be touch and my nervous system would relax, and I would think, oh, this is what makes this relationship all worth it. Are these moments where I think that we're like magically melding and I'm relaxing. And the more moments of those that I would have, the more I would be in this like codependent narcissistic stronghold that I always, that dynamic that I always recreated from my childhood with people that I was dating. So sex and touch are your number 1 love language. The more and chemistry, the more you're experiencing all of these things in a relationship, the deeper the psychological stronghold will get. Now, if you're in a healthy relationship, great. Healthy sex makes all the other departments of the relationship even more healthy, which is great. But I think for those of us who are in dysfunctional relationships, the sex expands the dysfunction. The other thing that I wanted to say about chemistry is this, and I've said this to a few of you in my conversations about sex and chemistry. Chemistry, I think, is a trick. Like people will say, we have such chemistry, we have such sexual chemistry. Well, my theory on that is sexual chemistry is a joke. It's a trick. It's our nervous system being triggered in a way that says, oh, this is familiar. This is a dynamic that I can lean into. This is a dynamic that is going to, that I can bring in deeply into my system. And for those of us who are codependents or attract, unhealthy dynamics, anything that feels familiar or that we can bring into our system or that we can lean into and operate in that dynamic is from our childhood. It's familiar because it's a dynamic from our childhood. And so I think for a lot of us, a chemical attraction is a re-triggering of a dynamic from our childhood. So what else do I want to say here? I'm just looking at my notes. So, I think that's everything. 20 minutes is a good length video. I love you all. Please write some comments and write to me, and we'll stay in this communication communication on this topic. And what I didn't really cover what attunement has anything to do with this. Well, what attunement has to do with this is learning how to really, really attune and understand our inner world, our feelings, our sensations, our emotions, even if it's a tingling, a tightness in the chest, because our body is reacting before our mind is. But it doesn't always occur that way, because our mind just decides, reacts, speaks, goes, because that's how we had to survive when we were children. But in attunement, we actually slow down and feel the physical, somatic, nervous system reaction before the decision and reaction goes to our brain. And I think this is very, very, very important when it comes to sex, because within sex, there are so many things at play that I discussed earlier, that we are making decisions and we are driven by so many unconscious things, so many dynamics that are instilled in us at a very young age. And so it's important for us to slow down and really learn how to attune to ourselves and attune to the other person. And then both realities can exist at the same time. Because really, with sex, you are marrying your realities. You are marrying your realities. It is such a strong act, strong, powerful act to share with another person, that it is important, most important, to serve yourself and your reality. Because particularly for us codependents, we want to serve the other person's reality more than we serve our own, and that's how we were trained as children. And in the practice of attunement, because we're born with a myriad of feelings and sensations, and as we are raised within our parents' psychological dynamic, we have to sort of reform our feelings and sensations into a very small spectrum of feelings and sensations. Those feelings and sensations that help us, that keep us safe in our parents' reality. And so we grow up through our lives, for our lives, just living in a very small lane of feeling and sensation. And so within the practice of attunement, we go back to how we were born to feel and experience life. And in that pure state, in the truest version of ourselves that was there, that it existed before we had to survive in our parents' reality. If we can return, when we return back and really attune and be able to hold all the feelings and all the sensations, then we can make the most conscious decisions in our lives, and for some of us, the most important part of our lives, which is sex and intimate relating. Because we are meant to be safe, to feel safe. We are meant to feel protected. We are meant to have authentic, maskless relations. That's what we are meant for. And for a lot of us, we've gone well away from that. And we're having relations where we're actually having sex inside of the illusion of a real connection. So, all of that being said, thank you for listening. I love you. Come into the attunement practice and have wonderful, beautiful, connected sex, and learn how to feel safe. Or really, I just want to tell people, like, don't do it at all. If you don't, just don't do it at all. It's so much more worth it when you're being really, really honest with yourself and the other person, and widen the spectrum of feeling, emotion, and safety. So I love you, and thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Fridays with Fidelman. Bye, everybody.